Hey everyone, Dark Magician of Team Sorcerers here, and welcome back to What If Wednesday. And this is another request. So I'm trying to remember who it was that requested this. It's been a few weeks. Yeah, the request is, what if Firestorm 2 lost the judge's decision to either bolt from the blue or the Morgue in Robot Wars The Fourth Wars? Oh, the thing with the Morgue was something I did wonder about for years, to be fair. Should have known someone would ask about that. Well, let's just quickly go over what would happen with the Morgue. I think, to be honest, even if it did win and go through to the semi-finals, I don't think it would have beaten Dominator 2. I mean, yeah, it could have rammed it and shoved it, but it wouldn't have done much. And yeah, despite the shape, Dominator 2 would still hack the Morgue with the axe. Yeah, just turn it into a pepper pot, and it would still win through a judge's decision, and then the fourth series would play out the same way. Now, before I go into who would be seeded for the fifth wars in that situation, I think I should go over what would happen with Bolt from the Blue. Obviously, there'd be no salt when it comes to the decision. I mean, it would be an upset for fans of Firestorm, myself included. But yeah, Bolt from the Blue would go on to face the Morgue in the Heat final. I'm not sure how easily it would be able to get under it. I know the Morgue probably wouldn't be able to do much to Bolt from the Blue. Maybe jam it with one of the spikes, I don't know. But I feel like Bolt from the Blue would be able to flip the Morgue up and be able to turn it over slowly so that it ends up on its back, and would go through to the semi-finals. Of course, for the sake of argument, even if the Morgue did somehow beat Bolt from the Blue, then the same thing would happen with Dominator 2. But in this case, Bolt from the Blue would go through to the semi-finals to face Dominator 2, and yeah, I'm not sure it would get further. I mean, it would go sort of the same way as if it was Firestorm 2 in this fight. It might try and flip Dominator 2 over, it might successfully turn it over a couple of times, but naturally Dominator 2 would just keep attacking with the axe, and leaving holes in it, and again would win through a judge's decision. Now, would there be any salt regarding that decision? I don't know. In any case, Bolt from the Blue doesn't return for the fifth wars. Now, originally I would have thought it was because of the salt with Firestorm, but there could be other reasons. But yeah, I want to look this up real quick. In any case, regarding the seeds for the fifth wars, I think we'd still have the exact same robots being seeded, but yeah, Firestorm would naturally be seeded a lot lower. I think it would be seeded 17th, and then everyone from everyone from Three Stakes to Heaven to Splinter would just remain the same. yeah, Bolt from the Blue just didn't enter. Um, yeah, just looking at the information on the wiki. Um, yeah, so yeah, with Bolt from the Blue not returning, I think Firestorm would still be seeded despite not making it to the Heat final. So yeah, and also everyone from Gemini to Smidsy would still keep the same rankings, and so would the top six. So going into the fifth ward, Heat A, nothing changes. Same with Heat B and C. But now, Three Stakes to Heaven would be seeded seventh, and it and 11 would be in this heat. So yeah, Three Sticks would beat 11, then Sacromalot, Reactor 2, and Gemini would win their other battles. Three Sticks would then face Sacromalot, and I think I went over this fight before, I can't remember, but I feel like Sacromalot would be able to tip Three Stegs on its side and leave it immobile, and that would be the first time that Sacromalot makes it to a Heat final. Then the fight between Gemini and Reactor 2 would play out the same way. Then Reactor and Sacromalot would meet in the Heat final, and although they're very similar in design, Sacromalot can't self-right, so Reactor 2 flips it over, just leaves it there, and goes through to the semi-finals. So then in Heat E, Wheelie Big Cheese and would be it because it's the ninth seed, as well as Wolverine and Splinter and Viper 01 would be in it as well. So yeah, Wheelie Big Cheese, the Alien, Napalm, and Splinter would win their fights. And yeah, Wheelie Big Cheese would easily defeat Napalm with no problems. Splinter and Prize Fighter Mach 2 would... No, not Prize Fighter. Prize Fighter's not in this heat. I don't know who'd win between Splinter and the Alien. Maybe the Alien would. I think that spinning hammer would knock one of its grabbing arms off. Yeah, I actually don't see Splinter winning this one, so the Alien would win that and face Wheelie Big Cheese in the Heat final and probably get flipped out the arena, with Wheelie Big Cheese winning. So Heat F, Tornado would be in this one, and so would Behemoth, because they'd be bumped to 11th and 14th, respectively. So yeah, Tornado would beat Gravedigger, King Bee Powerworks would beat Chronic 2, Corkscrew would beat 13 Black, and Behemoth would beat Supernova. Tornado and King Bee Powerworks would then face off against each other, and it would be pretty even, although at this point this would be where a Tornado randomly breaks down, just like it would have done against Dietor. So because of that, King Bee Powerworks would go through to the Heat final. Behemoth would beat Corkscrew because Corkscrew's weapon isn't working. Then the Series 2 semi-finalists would face off in the Heat final, and King Bee would put up a good fight, but Behemoth would just simply be better, and Behemoth would go through to the series semi-finals here. Heat G, Spawn again is still in this one, but as the 12th seed, while Exterminator is also in this one as well. I think I went over this scenario before as well, I can't remember, but in any case, Spawn again would beat Hydra, Deator would beat Dome, Evolution would beat Sabretooth, Exterminator would beat Immortalis, and for the sake of simplicity, Spawn again would still fight Evolution and flip it out the arena, while Deator and Exterminator do battle. I mean, Exterminator would start off quite strong here, although I think, although it would still end up breaking down, I think, because it actually did break down against Corkscrew in the real timeline. I'm not sure what would have caused it. But yeah, I think because of this, Deator would end up winning the heat, and the heat final, not the heat, the battle, and then the heat final would just simply play out the same way, with Spawn again winning. I'm just going to check something real quick. Yeah, so anyway, that would happen. So Heat H, we have Dominator 2 and Thermidor 2 in this one. So Dominator 2 would be Derek, Axel would beat Granny's Revenge, Crustacean would beat Robo Chicken, Prize Fighter 2 would beat Thermidor 2. And I think Dominator 2 would beat Axel, even though it would be for a judge's decision. And I think Prize Fighter would be able to beat Crustacean, because there's nowhere on Prize Fighter to grab, so yeah, there's that. And yeah, I think Dominator 2 would beat Prize Fighter in the Heat final. I don't see Prize Fighter going through here. So now we move on to Firestorm's Heat I. Wild Thing would be the 8th seed. So yeah, Wild Thing would beat Trouble and Strife. Bigger Brother would beat Tip Top. Tetanus would beat Onslaught, and Firestorm would beat Decapitator. So yeah, and then I guess what would happen here is Wild Thing would fight Tetanus and beat it, and Firestorm 3 and Bigger Brother would fight each other, and yeah, Firestorm would win this one, which does change a lot for Series 5 and 6. And then Firestorm would beat Wild Thing in the Heat final. So already, two major changes here would be that Wild Thing and Bigger Brother don't make it to the semi-finals. And then the remaining heats don't change. So with this, we come to the semi-finals. Yeah, Firestorm would face S3 like one series earlier, and that would pretty much play out the same way as the Series 6 fight. Firestorm would win, and S3 would go into the losers melee. Chaos 2 would fight Really Big Cheese and beat it. Yeah, especially with Really Big Cheese breaking down. I mean, I don't know if Really Big Cheese would even get a chance to flip Chaos 2, even though it would be working properly, unlike in the All-Stars quarterfinals. And Razor would beat Spawn again, of course. So yeah, the losers melee would be Really Big Cheese, Spawn again, and S3. I mean, you would think Really Big Cheese would get a chance to flip S3 out of the arena, but it's quite a slippery customer. So I don't think it would be able to. And naturally, the two-seeded flipper robots would end up breaking down, and S3 would get back in. So then we would have Razor fight S3 and beat that like in the normal timeline, and Firestorm would defeat Chaos 2 and get revenge for the defeat handed in Series 3. So we still have two of the same grand finalists. Then in the other semi-final, we would have Behemoth face Dominator 2, Hypnodisc would face Reactor 2, and Pussycat would fight Panic Attack. Now, the Pussycat and Panic Attack fight would play out the exact same way. It's hard to say who'd win between Behemoth and Dominator 2. I mean, unless Dominator 2 gets a lucky shot in the point where the link would be, like Shunt did that one time, I'm not sure Dominator 2 would win this one. I think Behemoth would come out on top. I think this would play out the same way as if Behemoth was fighting Steel Avenger. So, yeah, Behemoth would win this one. And, yeah, Reactor 2 has no chance against Hypnodisc. So yeah, Dominator 2, Reactor 2, and Panic Attack would be in the losers melee. And yeah, Panic Attack would just have a hard time with Dominator 2. It wouldn't be able to get under it. Reactor 2 is pretty slow and wouldn't be able to catch anyone. Panic Attack still ends up being a bit sluggish right at the end. Although rather awkwardly, Dominator 2 can't really damage either of these guys. And I think it would just win the judge's decision through being more aggressive. Simple as that. Yeah, it would go on to fight Hypnodisc in round 2, and then Behemoth would fight Pussycat. So the Hypnodisc versus Dominator fight, that plays out the same way. And I think Behemoth would actually be able to beat Pussycat. I mean, maybe there's a chance Pussycat can damage the side of Behemoth, but how much? I don't know. But I think Behemoth would more likely come out on top here and would go through to the grand final. So yeah, Behemoth would be in the grand final for the first time ever instead of Bigger Brother. Now, the grand finalists, who would face who? Well, I guess Razor would fight Behemoth and Hypnodisc would fight Firestorm 3. Yeah, that would be what would happen. Because obviously in this timeline, Razor and Firestorm were in the same semi-final and they're generally kept separate by this point. So we've gone over the Firestorm versus Hypnodisc fight. that basically plays out the way that I described before, with Firestorm pitting Hypnodisc, and Firestorm would go on to the very grand final for the first time ever, and Hypnodisc would have to try and settle for third place yet again. And as for Razor and Behemoth, we've seen this happen before. And yeah, Razor would come out on top here again, even if it's for a judge's decision. So Behemoth and Hypnodisc would be in the playoff, and would be a rematch from the All-Stars. But this time, I think Hypnodisc would come out on top, with the wire being in the right place. I mean, whether Behemoth gets trashed or ends up still working, I think Hypnodisc would end up finishing third and Behemoth fourth. And then, Razor and Firestorm would face off in the grand final, and it would be more of a much more epic grand final than what we got. It literally just plays out the same way as their real fight, and Razor still wins the UK title. And because Reactor 2 made it to the semi-finals here, it would actually be in the 6-4s and be seeded. I'm not quite sure how the seeding would be. I'd have to quickly figure this out. Okay, so for the 6-4s, Razor would still be the number 1 seed. Then it would be 2 Firestorm 4, 3 Hypnodisc, 4 Behemoth, 5 Chaos 2, 6 Dominator 2, 7 S3, 8 Panic Attack, 9 Spawn Again, 10 Reactor 3, 11 Stinger, and 12 Wild Thing. So, yeah, that would mean that obviously Bigger Brother and Wild Thing and Tornado wouldn't be seeded here. But it should be still quite easy to figure something out. Wait, no, Wild Thing is seeded. It would be seeded 12th. I don't know what I'm saying. So yeah, Tornado and Bigger Brother wouldn't be seeded here. Yeah, there we go. So, but luckily this is easy to figure out, because Bigger Brother would be in Behemoth's heat and Tornado would be in Reactor 3's heat. So here's how it would go down. Heat 1, nothing changes. And everyone is still in their same heats, but in a different order. There. B, Hypnodisc would win it. Then heats C and D, literally nothing changes. E, that's Spawn Again's heat, and Spawn Again would win that. And heat F, literally nothing changes. Heat G, Wild Thing's heat is this one, nothing changes there. And then we've got Reactor's heat, and Tornado would be in this one. But to try and keep it simple, Reactor 3 would replace Judge Shred 2.5. So yeah, Tornado and Inshredable would win their fight. In the other one, Revolution 2 would still break down. Anarchy would do quite well. 4 would have a hard time hitting Reactor. So, I don't know. I don't think 4 would win this one, and I think Anarchy and Reactor 3 would win the fight. Yeah, I did go over a scenario with Reactor 3 before, but yeah, and I mentioned that in the real timeline it didn't qualify, but like I said, it is in this series, in this timeline. So with this, Tornado would fight Anarchy and beat it. Reactor 3 would beat Inshreddable with no problems, but would then go on to lose to Tornado. And then Heat's I and J, nothing changes. Now, Heat K, this is Behemoth's Heat, and because Bigger Brother's in this one, it's basically Heat L in the real timeline, and it literally plays out the same way, and Behemoth would be eliminated in round 2, which would be a major surprise. And yeah, Bigger Brother wins the heat and goes through to the semis for the first time since Series 3. And then the last heat, Firestorm 4's heat, that plays out the same way. So for the semi-finals, so the first one, we've got Razor, Hypnodisc, Danton Kier, S3, Spawn Again, 13 Black. I think, yeah, S3 and Danton Kier would still fight each other. I guess it wouldn't make sense to have Razor and Spawn Again fight each other, because they did at this point in Series 5. So Hypnodisc would fight Spawn Again and Razor would fight 13 Black. And that fight would basically be how their All-Stars fight plays out. So that would happen. Razor beats 13 Black. Hypnodisc would beat Spawn Again, especially since Spawn Again is still having problems. And there we go. So it's almost the same losers melee, only Spawn Again is fighting 13 Black and Danton Kier instead. But yeah, 13 Black gets flipped over like immediately, and Spawn Again is still having some issues. So Danton Kier still wins that one and will go on to face Razor, while Hypnodisc takes on S3. And I mean, S3 is good, but I'm not sure about it being able to beat Hypnodisc. Hypnodisc, despite the shape of S3, it would be able to hit S3 from almost any angle and stay clear of the disc. Maybe it might get hit once, but it wouldn't do anything. But yeah, I think eventually a wheel would get jammed up, and Hypnodisc would go through to the grand final yet again and be the only robot to make it 4 times. And Razor, of course, beats Danton Kier. Meanwhile, the other semi-final, so we've got Wild Thing, Tornado, Terahertz, Dominator 2, Bigger Brother, and Firestorm 4. I think, again, to try and keep things simple, Bigger Brother would still fight Dominator 2. So I guess Firestorm would fight Tornado, and Wild Thing would fight Terahertz. Yeah, so naturally what happens with Bigger Brother and Dominator 2 plays out the same way. Tornado beats Firestorm in the same way it would have done in the actual timeline, and Terahertz just beats the stuffing out of Wild Thing. So, yeah, it's quite funny, actually. The 3 robots that were in the same Heat in the Fifth Wars all meet each other again. Um, uh, I guess Wild Thing and Bigger Brother would try and gang up on Firestorm and get revenge, but Firestorm thought was just too strong for the both of them. Firestorm just flips them all over the place. Yeah, it's just too powerful and way too too aggressive. I mean, it's definitely the best version of Firestorm out of the five robots, and definitely the most successful. Like, hence why it won the Commonwealth Carnage, finished third in the Six Wars, and finished second in the second All Stars fight. So yeah, naturally Firestorm would get back in. Then Tornado would go on to face Dominator 2 and beat it, but then Firestorm's run would come to an end and get beaten by Terahertz. I know, obviously, Terahertz lost to Firestorm in the playoff in the real timeline, but this is a more healthy Terahertz, and it just batters Firestorm, immobilises it, and goes through to the grand final. So there's another major difference. Hypnodisc is there instead of Firestorm. Then in the grand final, Razor beats Terahertz as usual. Tornado beats Hypnodisc in the same way as it would have done in the real timeline. Hypnodisc then has to fight for third place again, but it would beat Terahertz. I mean, her spinners can usually beat Terahertz anyway, well, except for Carbide, but yeah, one way or another, Terahertz breaks down, finishes fourth, and Hypnodisc finishes third again, and then the grand final plays out the same way as before. Yeah, I'm not going to cover Series 7 because the same robots will be seeded, but in a different order. And Typhoon 2 would end up winning. But yeah, basically, that is what would have happened if Bolt from the Blue or the Morgue beat Firestorm 2 on a judge's decision. Yeah, we'd still have the exact same UK champions. Firestorm wouldn't be as successful as it was in the normal timeline regarding semi-finals and the grand final. But Behemoth would have a lot more glory here, making it to the grand final in the Fifth Wars. And yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching.